Hello, my name is Evan Will, and welcome to my presentation on Japan Watch. The purpose of this presentation is to provide an introduction and high-level overview of energy production in Japan, a little bit about the history and how the current geopolitical landscape and environmental disasters have shaped energy production in this country. So Japan is unique in that it is the world's third largest economy, and they have very few natural reserves of their own. Most fossil fuels are imported. Japan was the number one coal importer in 2010 with 187 metric tons, which makes up for about 1/5 of the world's total coal import. They were also the first in natural gas, making up about 12% of the world gross import total. 42% of their energy needs are met by oil imports. Japan is also unique in that the power grid in the eastern and western halves of the country are incompatible. The main renewable energy resource in Japan is hydro. As you can see from the graph, after the 2011 Fukushima nuclear disaster, Japan scaled back their nuclear program, closing all 42 of their nuclear reactors. To make up for this loss in energy production, they relied heavily on imported fossil fuels to meet their energy needs. TELCO, or the Tokyo Electric Light Company, was established in 1883. And to meet growing demands, in 1885, they bought a lot of equipment from the German company AEG, which was used to power the Kanto or the eastern region of Japan. A few years later, equipment was bought from GE, an American company, to supply the power technology in the western part of the country. These two systems were incompatible, and the eastern and western power grids in Japan are not compatible, but there are 3 transfer stations that can convert the electricity to the other standard to meet the demands and production in the different regions of Japan. As you can also see from the image to the left, Japan's power production and distribution is controlled by separate companies for each of the country's different regions, represented by a different color on the map to the left. These 10 regional monopolies that exist control huge power and shape policy in Japan, making it very difficult for real change to be enacted. 3 times since the 1990s, there has been attempts to deregulate the market, which have all been overturned. After the recent Fukushima nuclear disaster, these power companies have lost a lot of public trust and support, which does open the door for policymakers to actually enact a change. But recently, the Fukushima nuclear disaster has made headlines all around the world, being the largest nuclear disaster since 1986 Chernobyl event in the Ukraine. So in 2011, the Tohoku earthquake and subsequent Fukushima nuclear meltdown changed the energy landscape in Japan. After the disaster, the government shut down all 42 existing nuclear reactors and put an immediate halt on nuclear production. Shortly thereafter, there have been nuclear sites that have reopened to help supply the energy for Japan's high consumption needs. But what did change was the public loss of trust for nuclear power and the companies that controlled them. This ushered in a great opportunity for policies to actually gain this public support needed to enact these changes. In the wake of the production loss from nuclear energy, Japan has turned to liquefied natural gas, LNG, and coal import to meet their energy needs. And looking towards the future, the current Prime Minister Abe's government is focused on increasing renewable energy production. Currently, the country's main renewable energy source is hydroelectricity. Japan was the world's second largest producer of photovoltaic electricity in the early 2000s until Germany took it over in 2005. In 2005, Japan produced 38% of the world's supply of photovoltaic electricity. In 2003, Japan was the 5th largest producer of carbon emissions, generating about 5% of the world total. Going forward, nuclear power will account for 20 to 22% of the nation's electricity supply, and the renewable energy goal is to be 20% renewable energy by 2020. Japan currently has plans to reduce their reliance on nuclear energy, but nuclear energy will continue to be a source of Japanese power production. So thank you for listening to my presentation on Japan Watch. I hope this provided a good overview of energy history and production in Japan, and I look forward to diving a little bit deeper over the coming weeks with bi-weekly updates and reports on Japan. Being the world's third largest economy and having such high energy consumption needs, and relying so heavily on import for natural resources and energy, it's very interesting and unique to see how Japan integrates with the rest of the world in terms of their production and dependence on energy, and how that interplay affects Japan on a world scale. So I look forward to presenting more in the weeks to come and learning about Japan's interplay with other energy producing regions in the world. Thank you very much.